Hello, and welcome to another episode of Scavenger Life. This is episode number 184 at scavengerlife.com. We are back in the United States.
Yeah, I am, anytime we go away, I always get so excited coming back. I think that's one reason why I like traveling is because it kind of breaks up its routine of running an eBay store.
Being at home all the time.
We love our home, and this is where we work.
Right.
We sleep here. So
yeah.
It's almost like even if we weren't paid to do these work trips, I'd want to take trips.
Right. Just to break things up. Yeah, I agree. It's good to just kind of go out into the world.
It's almost like it reminds me of when when I worked a regular job, and they would just give you either 10 days or 2 weeks vacation.
Right.
It was never enough. Like, it's almost like you've got to take, or I needed to take a break every 3 months.
Right.
Even every 2.5 months.
Yep.
But obviously, I could never do that because you don't have that kind of vacation time.
Yeah, you can't. But that's the great thing about being independent is even if we weren't having a work trip, I mean, we could just be like, let's go scavenge in such and such city.
Yeah. So, a couple things before we get to our numbers. So we have done no listing at all on eBay.
No.
For the past 2.5 weeks.
About 3 weeks, yeah.
About 3 weeks. So let that float into your mind as we talk about things and talk about our numbers. Right. Another big thing is tomorrow we meet with our accountant.
Right.
He called us and said he's got our its returns, and we pretty much know what we owe unless something unexpected has come up. We pretty much know. And I remember when we went independent, when we really started doing eBay full time. And by the way, for us, it kind of snuck up on us. We always thought eBay was just going to be an extra kind of source of income.
Yeah, a hobby, basically.
But we were actually making some serious money on it. So I remember when we got those 1099s, we were like, oh, shit, we got to
Yeah, we were like, oops.
I mean, and also when we, I think a lot of people don't realize that when you're independent like this, you have to pay self-employment taxes. That's a big part of the taxes. It's not just the money on your profits, it's also having to pay your Social Security and your Medicare.
Right. So it's like if you are used to just having a regular job with a paycheck, most all businesses take your taxes out for you. And that's not the case when you're just making money independently.
Right.
So you're supposed to pay quarterly. Which would be great to be able to do. But
we don't always just do that because we feel we need the money sometimes for other things. And you don't have to pay quarterly. It's just if you don't pay it by the end of the year, there's a small penalty, but it's very small.
Yeah, it's minor.
And I know this would probably be different for other people, but we don't like paying a lot of money in taxes, but I understand why we do. I mean, I kind of appreciate that we live in a really good country with great infrastructure. Yeah,
the infrastructure is if you've traveled to other places in the world, you'll see how amazing the infrastructure in the United States is.
Yeah, going to Colombia was cool. I really, my experience had always been going to Mexico growing up in Texas. And, Mexico has some good places and a lot of just really not much infrastructure, and I kind of expected that to happen in Colombia. That is definitely my gringo bad ideas. I was really amazed at how much Colombia was spending on their infrastructure.
Yep.
In their urban areas.
Yeah, it's definitely developed there.
And that's when you can see things change. Like in Bogota and in Medellin, they had spent so much money building this great metro.
Metro.
So tram, buses.
In Medellin, it's the only subway, actual train system in Colombia. But in Bogota, they had a very extensive bus system, which was almost like a subway because it had its own lane.
Right.
So that's what differentiates it from just a regular bus.
And they had a bike path
Yeah.
That was not crossing any streets or roads with cars. It
Yeah.
was,
that was really cool.
but, if a society can invest that way, it
makes a huge difference.
You can just feel it, there's energy that happens,
Yeah, it makes a huge difference in, like, people's lives in the city. Like, the quality of life goes up.
Yeah, that's our pro-tax argument. And before I get into it's numbers 2, I've said this before, but it's become because more people on the blog are starting to post its numbers, which makes the comments on the blog even that more interesting to me. I'm really amazed at there are sellers who are posting their numbers that have much fewer items than we do, and they are making either about the same amount as we do, or sometimes even more.
Yeah. So, what is your theory?
It's
on
incredible.
That? What's your theory?
Okay, sure. I mean, number one is it proves that we aren't experts. Like,
right.
we aren't one of these sites that says we're eBay guru coaches, experts. Like, we know everything. So definitely there are people who do a good job and maybe do things a little differently than we do, and are doing maybe better than we are. I don't know. It really depends on how you judge it. I think too, for us, in the past year, we've really been focusing more on the unique items.
Right.
We've really moved away from selling clothes, jackets, shoes.
I mean, we still have, but the issue is we still have a lot of that stuff in our inventory.
Right.
So why
doesn't it sell?
Yeah, why isn't that stuff selling? I don't know.
That's a good question.
I mean, we have a crap load of shoes that have to be
We have like 8 huge plastic bins full of shoes that we've been kind of hoarding.
Oh my God, that's insane.
And you know what? And they're awesome shoes because
now we only buy the best.
Yeah, I mean, we always say, let's just get the best of the best.
Yeah, we don't buy junky stuff because we're like, it's harder to sell that because it's so worn out.
And we still have like a couple piles of jackets that we just haven't gotten around to taking pictures of,
this is a weird thing to say, but it still amazes me that people buy used shoes on eBay. Like, I know everybody says that, and we're like, yeah, well, they do. But I had this one pair of Cole Haan penny loafers that we sold, and they're worn out. Like, the bottoms are worn out, and they're like, whatever.
Why do we sell them?
Someone bought them for $50. I'm like, wait, I know I've been doing this, like, for years, but I just looked at these, and I was like...
Are really in that bad a shape? I mean, we normally don't.
Okay, they weren't in bad shape, but they were definitely, like, used.
Okay.
They weren't, like, great used condition,
but, But, I mean, sometimes with shoes, though, we're getting way off topic here, but sometimes with shoes, though, we will sell ones with worn soles because you can always get
them resold.
It's replaced.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
if the shoe itself, if it's a...
But my comment here is they still paid $50 to buy a pair of shoes that they'll probably get resold. Yeah. It's just fascinating to me. I'm like, it was one of those moments where I was like, I just like stepped outside myself and was like, what's up? That's crazy,
But getting back to why we think some people are making more with less items.
Yeah.
I mean, I think too, some people are just really good scavengers where maybe I feel like we did it kind of opposite.
Yeah.
We we had no idea what we were doing when we started. There were no blogs or podcasts that we knew about that could help us. So we were just going in blind. So we really filled up a lot of our store with kind of junkier items and then moved towards quality. And we've, so it's been kind of like an upward curve.
Right.
I think some people that I see have started out and they've had the benefit to be just really good scavengers from the beginning. So like their 500 items are like top quality,
like the best,
awesome items where they put them up and they get good prices.
So are you saying that like a bunch of our inventory might still be some of the lower quality things?
I mean, I think
aren't selling, or
I think it's kind of like there's like all these. If you look at our inventory, like the quality is all over.
Yeah,
the place,
and it's not necessarily to me the quality of the items. It's just like what they are.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like it might be a good quality item, but it's just not something that like a lot of people are looking for.
Right. Well, that's I think what I think it's what I mean by we've been focusing on like non-popular items.
Right.
You know, when I say like the kind of unique items, I mean like the items where there might only be 25 others online, but they aren't popular. They're like the long tail items where it's there might only be 10 people on the planet that might even be interested.
Right.
So you just have it up waiting for that person.
Yeah.
The cool thing is when they buy it for a relatively good price because it's so special. It's not an item that's selling all the time.
Yeah, it's not just like a mass appeal.
And that's why clothes and shoes are great. Because
Right.
people are always buying clothes and shoes.
Right.
If you're willing to really just like get in there and you're listing a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
And being really competitive with your prices. Because, you know, when people start an eBay store, very often they start with clothes.
Yeah.
Because that's what people buy at Goodwill.
Yeah.
You know?
There's so many clothes to buy at every thrift store. It's like obvious,
right.
you know?
It's a thing that people get into.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just, you know, I don't, I celebrate people that make good, it's money on eBay. It is just interesting though. It's not always about how much stuff you have listed. It's also about what kinds of stuff.
Right.
Too.
Right. Yep.
But the good news is we're always making the money we need to make and more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're enjoying what we're doing. And so that's really the most important thing.
Yeah. And, you know, it has been slow the last few weeks. And I think part of it might be because we haven't been listing. Then again, we have so many items in our store. I'm like, it can't be just because of that.
But I mean, we're about to share our numbers for this past week. It is still amazing, though, because we do have a large store that we cannot do anything for 3 weeks. And we can continue to make a relatively substantial income.
Yes.
Just what we need week to week. I mean, where we can just turn off. Whereas, you know, we've always said when you have a smaller store, you really have to be on top of it because you're kind of like right on the edge. Like, you can't really take much time off because your inventory is small.
Exactly.
Just another thing I was interested. I was looking at our stats. So I love the stats of our blog.
Blog stats, not eBay store stats.
Blog stats. Someone found our store by searching, what does scavenger life mean?
Okay, no. Someone found our blog, not our store. Now you're confusing them.
Gotcha.
Someone found our blog through what does scavenger life mean?
Which I think is such a great that someone would ask that question. Like,
so someone typed that into Google basically.
Yeah, and found our blog through that.
Wow.
It's scavenger. It says it's like the eternal.
Like, what does it mean?
It's like the eternal question that seems like I feel like we're trying to answer each and every week. You know,
it's like what does it mean?
Yeah, what does it mean? Okay, so let's do our numbers for this week. So again, we've been away for the past 2 weeks. We haven't really listed in 3 weeks.
Right.
But this is what we made. So we grossed about $1,200.
Okay.
It was actually $1,266.
Okay, yep.
We sold 25 items. So the highest price sold was a $160 a Casio keyboard.
Yes. I just want to mention this real quick. This Casio keyboard, we went to a yard sale over the summer.
So it's been almost 8 months or so.
Yeah. And it was kind of a high-end yard sale, which is funny because it was out in the country. Like, usually we don't stumble upon these, like, big, like, McMansion houses or whatever. But there was one, and they had two vintage keyboards. One was a Casio, one was a Yamaha, and they were $5 each. And I turned them on, and the batteries worked, and I was like, $5 for a Casio? That's a great price. Like, as an electronics nerd, I was like, yeah. So this one sold for $160. And I will say, I forgot to videotape it for the video.
Oh,
I know. The thing is, I packed it up, I wrapped it, I put the label on, and I was like, oh, I forgot to videotape it.
Such a good.
But anyway, it was a really cool kind of the bigger Casio keyboards. About $160.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a great price.
For a $5 item.
Yeah.
So our average price this week was $50. So
that's a great average price.
So that was good.
But, you know, the total items sold is 25, so it's, you know, less items sold.
Right.
That's why the average price kind of bumped up, I think.
Yeah. But, you know, I mean, that's the thing. Like, we may sell less, but we're selling higher priced items. So the interesting thing about it this week, for the past several weeks, it's for us, is that we were selling a lot of things under $30. Like,
right.
For some reason, people were just buying the really low cost items,
yeah.
or giving us really low offers that we're willing to take. So this week we sold only 8 things under $30.
Right.
Normally it was like over half. We sold 6 things over $75.
Yeah.
And we sold 3 things over $100.
Okay, so that's kind of amazing.
Yeah. And the rest of the stuff was the good solid bread and butter stuff. We always say over $30, between 30 and
30 and 50, yeah.
It's $50.
Yeah.
That's our kind of like our bread and butter stuff, you know.
Yeah.
That, and the reason why we say that is, it seems like that's the value of items that people seem willing just to throw away. Like,
right.
In America, people seem willing to take an item that you could sell for $30 to $50, and they're willing just to basically
give it away.
Right.
And now I think the reason for that is, too, because, you know, the time it's going to take me to put this on eBay,
right.
sell it for $30, right. They're like, I have, you know, a box full of items. It's not worth my time.
Right. Like, it's more taking up more mental energy and stress. Like, it's cluttering, you know.
Right.
I mean, people even pay other people to come and take their treasures out. And so, you know, the good question is always like, well, why don't you just focus on the stuff that sells for over $100? You know,
that's
the reason is because most people won't part with the $100 item. Like, the $100 item, people kind of sense is worth a little bit more, so they'll either not give it away, or, you know, it's just harder to find.
Right.
I will say, though, it's different. You could just focus on selling things for $100, but then you have to pay more for it. So it's always too, like, you have to do that math. Like, do I pay $50 so I can sell it for $100? Or, you know, or do you do like we do, where we're just trying to pay $1 to make 30, you know?
Right, right.
You could make a little more money. There's more investment. So again, it's just like
it's just a balancing act.
Yeah.
I mean, and also, like you said, it is harder to find an item that's going to sell for $100 or more just out while you're scavenging. I mean, at a regular thrift store.
Though it happens often,
frequently.
It's just there are enough of those to only focus just on those. Right. And I think that's why the guys that have the smaller stores, 500 item stores, that are making more than we do, they seem to focus more on just those. Yeah. So
electronics, or like someone was selling some crazy amounts of bike parts.
Yeah.
I mean, prices for bike parts.
Yeah, that single bike part that sold for $1,600.
Yeah, that was in a blog comment. That was crazy.
Yeah.
So stuff like that, like, really boosts your numbers. Obviously, he paid $800 for it.
Right. Now because we've been doing this blog for 3 years now, almost.
Is that right? 2 years, 3
13,
years,
13, 14, 15.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Almost 3 years. So we have now some archival data that we can
look back on,
compared to. So 2014 is last year. We actually sold. In this week, we sold $2,400 worth of stuff.
Ooh,
so twice as much.
Double.
And we sold 56 items. So really, we sold twice as much this time last year.
Do you think there's something's up with the economy, or? I mean, it's just random.
I mean, it's like we talked about. There aren't enough data points. Like, it's hard just to compare 1 week to the other. I mean, we've been having a lot of snow on the East Coast.
Yeah.
In the Midwest for the past month. I mean, so maybe that's slowing things down.
Yeah.
People aren't getting to work as much and aren't spending as much.
Right, that's true.
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
But, you know, but these things it is always a cause for concern in a way, because when you're depending on this for your income.
And the numbers are
You're trying to find, But again, it's low compared to what? You know, compared to like holiday sales.
Compared to like higher weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, what we try and focus on, it's the money we need, you know?
Yeah. And so we're doing okay.
We're grateful and content about that.
Right, exactly.
So some of the other cool things is we sold, there's that Casio keyboard. That's a cool one.
Yeah.
We sold this industrial chair, like a drafting table chair, like
yeah. It's made of metal, and the seat in the back are wood. And we bought 2 of them at a thrift store. They were $5 each.
Yep.
I think I had them up for $400. I had them up for $400 each, which I know kind of sounds insane. But if you look at whatever design blogs,
or if you go to a Restoration Hardware,
I mean, those chairs, and
that's a style.
It's a style, and those chairs, not real vintage ones, cost $300, $400 for one chair. So anyway, I got an offer of $150, and I was like, I'm selling this thing.
Yeah.
And the other thing is I have to ship it.
Yeah.
But it's more like a stool with a back. So I can pull the back off and wrap it up in a tall box, and it should be fine. But
yeah. We sold some wool blankets.
Yep.
I love these. They sell for, it's $50 to $80.
Yeah.
Sometimes a little bit more, but those are the 2 that sold. It's this week.
One sold for $35.
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It had a lot of wear on it.
Yeah, that army blanket. But, blankets are great. Wool blankets are just, it's kind of my love because I love them, because
because we love them in our own house.
They're solid.
They're warm.
Yeah, they're great.
We always get wool blankets.
We're glad when those sell.
So the other thing that I also forgot to videotape.
Ryan.
Okay, I had 55 things to pack this week. I tried to videotape every single one of them, but
wow.
I was getting so exhausted that I would just pack something and be like, damn.
Yeah.
So anyway, the chessboard, it's this thick wood chessboard, and it had a bunch of scuffs on it, but
it was pretty scuffed up. It didn't have any pieces.
It didn't have any pieces, but we oiled it, and I oiled it before I packed it again. So it actually looked gorgeous when I packed it. So that sold for how much?
Like $80.
$80. Yeah. So that was really nice.
And that was just one of those things we just found really cheap. Just, it was in a corner somewhere, because someone was just thinking who would want this without the pieces?
And it was wood. It was solid wood, so you can oil it and it looks pristine. So.
And then another typical eBay sale was, we had a mug.
Right.
It was just like a coffee mug, but the logo on it, or
the drawing.
It was from a Vietnam era battleship, or a transport ship.
And it's very specific. You'll find these hats, but sometimes on mugs, it'll be the very specific battleship. So people who were on that ship will have a search out for it.
And this even had a guy's name on it too. So we were contacted by a veteran that said he was on that boat. He knew this guy, and he was asking if we, were relatives, and we said no. We just found it at a thrift store.
Right.
We pulled it from the waste stream, and this guy was like, "I'd love to have it," and he bought it from us. So again, it's that sentimental value.
Right.
Who else would want this thing other than
exactly,
the small amount of people on that ship that might have known that guy.
That's why I love those hats too, because I always find those hats with the very specific boat or plane or whatever, a fort that someone was at, and people who were there, I mean, they'll buy those because they'll search for them.
Yeah. This week is, going away and then coming back. It's always really hectic. So you've been packing for the past 2 days straight, right? 3 days straight.
Yeah, I've been packing for 3 days. And the great thing is, and I've talked about this before, on our handling time, I had a big buffer, because then I could come home, gather our stuff, take my time packing, and people aren't like, where's my thing?
And that was thanks to Shamley. I don't know if it's a man or a woman, but they go by Shamley, and they're the ones that had this idea. Add, and that was a great idea.
It really helps. So people aren't expecting me to ship until tomorrow. Right. So almost everything's done. Right. And some people even already got their stuff.
I mean, it's amazing. So we sold 50 things while we were gone for a 10-day trip. I mean, again, we've been away for 6 weeks, where that number has been almost 200. 200. It's amazing that you ship 200 items.
The good thing is the majority of them can go in a poly mailer or just a regular box, and it's really fast. The hard things are the things like a lamp or a chessboard,
right.
or whatever.
Or a...
Also, this chessboard was quite large. It was like 23 inches by 23 inches. So, yeah, so it's things like that where you really have to protect them, and it takes quite a few minutes to, find a box, pat it, make sure it's whatever. But the majority of the stuff, you just like throw it in a poly mailer, hats, wallets, little things, know, so. But it does take time. That's the thing, is like, I packed all day yesterday.
Right.
From the morning until it was dark at night. And plus now I'm videotaping stuff for those videos, so that adds quite a bit of time.
You're so dedicated.
But I like making those videos. So
do you enjoy this?
What?
Shipping,
I like
videos?
Shipping.
Good.
I like it.
Good.
I'm like a shipping nerd, so I've said that before.
So it doesn't feel like it's your own sweatshop.
No, I don't feel like that at all.
Good.
Because when you're packing stuff, we always say when shipping gets annoying, when you're like, oh my God, I have so much stuff to ship, that you should not be complaining, because that means you're making money.
Right.
Like,
we want it to be so annoying to ship because it means that things are selling.
Right, exactly. When you're like, oh, I have one thing to pack, I'm not even going to do it until the morning. I mean, that's depressing.
Right.
So.
And actually it seems like the past 4 or 5 days, we've been selling well.
Yes, yeah. So
Good
that's
items.
the other thing that you have to think about when you come home, is keeping up with stuff that's people are buying without a long handling time.
Right.
So I try to balance that, pack a few things for people who are waiting, but then grab the stuff that people just bought that are expecting you to ship that night. So that's also a balancing act too.
So we live on the East Coast, or in the Southeast, and actually, yesterday we had a big snowstorm. It must have
snowed almost 2 feet.
Yeah.
In a day. It
Huge.
just. We were shoveling a path for the post office person 4 times yesterday.
But I was taking pictures, and I went out on a porch, and that's where we store some of our unlisted inventory that needs to get put up.
Yeah.
And I counted, we have 18 plastic tubs
Oh my God.
of just all these little cool random things that we've been buying at flea markets and yard sales. A lot of this stuff is from last summertime.
Right.
But this is a good example of what we encourage other people to do who live in snowy areas.
Yeah, the Dakotas.
Yeah, there are no yard sales, but I have so much inventory. I took a box.
Yep.
I brought it inside, and while Ryan was packing, I took pictures of a
Random
box of
stuff, right?
Each box has about 20-ish kind of things in it. Totally random, awesome, cool things.
And that stuff sells. Just random
And
stuff.
so I'll probably be doing that, until springtime comes and yard sales happen. I doubt I'll even get through it all, but, it's nice having that backlog.
I think we have an entire box, a big Rubbermaid box full of ties.
Yeah.
But they're nice
I know.
ones.
We have some stuff that I just don't want to touch, a huge box of ties, huge box of scarves, a huge box of belts. Just
well, maybe that needs to be my job, because I love that stuff, because it's so easy to list, it's easy to ship, and it sells. One time we had this box of belts, not to get totally off the subject here, and I was like,
you did a good job.
I remember being like, nobody's gonna buy these belts, and then I took photos of them, listed them. They sold like crazy. I was like, I just sold all the belts I just.
It was
listed.
interesting. If you were doing a lot of belts too. If you're doing it's 4 belts, 3 belts.
Yeah, for women's belts, I kind of fashion, funky, vintage 80s belts. I do a lot of 10.
Right.
And they would sell like crazy. Right. So it's just.
I think
interesting.
Because again, it's that passion. I look at that thing of ties and I'm just not passionate about it. But maybe you are.
Yeah, maybe I need to get a second camera so I can take photos at the same time as you. I'll just use my iPhone.
Yeah.
But
so, one of the other things we love to do when we come back from a trip is go scavenging,
Yes.
Especially since we were in Colombia, there were no places to scavenge.
No. Well, it's funny because, you've been away for 10 days, so you're like, what have the thrift stores, added since I've been gone?
So we went to one. Again, this is very typical for us.
Right.
We went to one the day after we came back, and they had just gotten in a new shipment of stuff.
Yeah, truckload.
Stuff was everywhere. It was a mess. We love it.
I don't even think they were open. They just let us in.
Yeah, we were like knocking on the door
like,
just because.
Well, they knew we'd buy stuff, so
Yeah.
they were like, okay.
And because I think some places like they don't like to sell if things look messy because they want to seem professional. But we're like, oh, this is the best.
Oh, that's
like,
I don't care.
I want to look at stuff before you have a chance to.
That's
look
the
at
key,
stuff.
right?
And we walked away with, we only spent $20.
Yeah.
And
the initial calculation we did, we looked at the pile and we were like, we spent $18. This potentially could be $1,000.
yeah.
Because there was one box of software, really high-end software, that's
Right.
worth like $500.
I mean, it's one of those times where you have to go in with an open mind. You know, we
Yep.
have no preconceived notions.
You have no idea what's
it's
in
just
there.
like, what's here? So I found like this like sports biking suit.
Oh yeah,
you
that's
know.
like $50.
We found like some tape itch recorders. You
Yep.
found some software that
Yeah.
I would not have ever picked it, but you just happened to have known what it was.
And you know what's so weird? I'm not going to mention the software, but the name or anything. But a friend of mine told me about it because I was inquiring about, oh, what should I use for this particular project? And a friend told me you should use this. So I looked it up on the internet and like knew it cost like $1,000. And I was like, hell no, I'm not going to use that. And then we walked in the thrift store. I'm like, that's what he told me to use. Right. I mean, it's very like whatever. It's so nerdy, but it's just funny that I'm like, I never would have known what that was called, you know, like unless my friend a couple of weeks ago had told me about it.
Yeah. So, you know, that's always exciting. And actually, I've been trying to do a good job where when we buy stuff, I took pictures of that the very next day.
Right,
you know,
right. I love how you just said that, and you're like, minus the 18 tubs on the front porch.
Well, that kind of thing happens when we like go away for long periods of time and we don't keep up with things, you know.
Yeah. There's always a backlog, I think. I mean, there's always a backlog.
It's good though.
Yeah.
Or it's good. It's for us because it means like we wouldn't have to shop for
a long time.
3 to 6 months.
I mean, having more stuff available to you is much better than having nothing.
Right.
Like, I'd be scared if we were like, we don't have any inventory.
Right.
I mean, that would be frightening.
Exactly.
But that's never the problem.
So, customer issues.
Yes.
We had no returns on eBay.
Right.
Any more new ones. But that also makes sense just because we haven't shipped anything in a while.
Right.
But we've actually been through a long period of like not really having any problems. I mean, you know, some people it's return things are like, it doesn't fit, but no bad feedback. Or...
Yeah, but mostly those returns, like you said, are not our fault, which is great. So far that's been.
But
fine.
I guess I just want to make a point in this moment that to realize that things are going good, and then for some, it will hit that weird patch where like we start getting like
a bunch of returns,
neutral feedbacks or bad feedbacks, or we're having to like kind of like not fight with people, but you know, like, you know, go to eBay to, you know, help us deal with an angry customer.
Right.
I don't know why they kind of come in batches, but
it
they
just
do.
happens. So I had sold a pair of faucet handles, some high-end faucet handles for about $87 on Amazon.
Right. This was when we had gone to that plumbing outlet and they were dumping stuff. We bought a bunch of it and we put it on Amazon.
Amazon, yeah, and it's merchant fulfilled. So, so this is just a question I had for some other people. I actually tried to Google it and look on Amazon, and I couldn't really find a clear answer. So they returned it to me, and they initiated it through Amazon. So I said, yes, you can return it, no problem. They shipped it back to me, and then I relisted it. Does Amazon give me back my fees from that? And if so, like, where do I go to see that? It's not FBA. It's merchant fulfilled.
Right. So do they automatically get this fees back?
Yeah.
When the refund happens?
And like, where do I find
and
that?
Did you add a restocking fee?
Right.
Like you can on eBay.
Right.
You know.
That's that. So those are questions I have for other people who sell on Amazon, merchant fulfilled.
And you know, eBay, we always say we'll call eBay and ask customer rep. Did you call Amazon, or like how do you communicate with Amazon if you have questions?
To ask them a question. Like, I tried to look at their FAQs and all that stuff, but I couldn't really find it for a merchant fulfilled. I might not have been looking in the right place, but I would love to hear about that, because fees on an $87 item are pretty high. So I would love to get that money back.
Okay, I'm taking off my seller's cap and I'm putting on my buyer's cap.
Yeah, so we bought something.
So we had a customer issue where we were the customer.
Right.
So we bought an item on eBay.
Right.
And it was like a radio. And the thing was, there aren't a lot of them on eBay.
Right.
And so we could have bought one
on auction.
On auction. I started participating in the auction and following it. I hate auctions, but because, of all the waiting. But I got out of the auction and just bought one by it now.
Because it was a better price.
Well, it was going to be what I thought the auction was going to be.
Right.
I was like, well, I might get it cheaper in auction, but I can buy it now at this price, and I know I'll have it.
Right.
So I dumped out of the auction. Someone else won the auction, and then we bought it. Yeah. This one. Then the buyer emailed us. The seller. It messaged us and canceled it. He said, I didn't have it anymore.
Yeah, he was basically a drop shipper.
Right. When I say he, this is what made us angry. It was one of those big...
Like tech companies.
Sellers that sell, like hundreds and hundreds a day. They didn't actually send us a message, an explanation, an apology. It was just one of those automated, your item has been canceled.
And they refunded us.
Right.
Which was fine, but...
And so, as a buyer, this is when I want eBay to bring the hammer down on these kind of sellers that aren't keeping track of their inventory. Because, again, I could have won that other auction.
Right.
And
you lost out on the price you wanted, basically.
And wasted a lot of my time, too.
Right.
Because
so now we have to go find another one.
So, what's interesting is, I immediately wanted to leave bad feedback.
Right.
Because I believe this buyer, this person who sold it to me, should get that. Right. Because again, I think if this company had messaged us and said, look, we thought we had it. I went to the shelf. I didn't see it.
Right.
I really apologize.
They humanized it.
Yeah, if they made me feel like they cared, I would have been okay. Human error.
Right.
It didn't even matter. They're just like, it's numbers. Don't have it. Canceled, blah, 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 So I want to give them bad feedback because they deserve that.
Right.
Interesting, the thing is, eBay makes a buyer wait 7 days. I didn't know that.
Which is weird, because why should I wait 7 days on an item that's not available?
I'll tell you why. I think, and that's interesting, I guess eBay's trying to allow a cooling off period.
Yeah.
So you aren't leaving bad feedback in the moment when you're really passionate. Like, if you really want to leave bad feedback,
you gotta wait.
That bad feeling needs to last 7 days. And I'll tell you what, I put it on our calendar. When that 7 days is done, we're leaving bad feedback.
Oh, trust me, I will. Don't worry. I'm a professional seller, but as a buyer, man, I will tell people what I think.
Well,
look,
like,
what?
It's like I said, I understand it's just that things happen, but again, just those kind of sellers on eBay are the ones that give eBay a
bad reputation,
because they aren't communicating with people or managing their store well.
Right, exactly.
And if it really is a ship or two, that's a worse. Just some guy, he's not touching his inventory. He's just putting up a bunch of stuff online, and then he ships it from some warehouse.
Right.
Somewhere.
Someone else is shipping it for him. Yeah.
So anyway, that's my little rant.
Yeah, that it is annoying. So
okay, just some news. You guys saw that we while we were in Colombia, we were just working on our blog, kind of doing some new reorganizing, kind of updating some of the info. Ryan did a good job. It's making some new images, graphics. Yeah.
And someone had suggested this to us before, and I put a tip jar up.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, obviously, all our content is free on iTunes and YouTube and on our blog. So we never charge you for that.
Yeah.
But if you do appreciate what we do on the blog, you can give us a tip if you want to.
And, a bunch of people have given us tips, and we really appreciate it. It's kind of gone into a special fund we have so that we can spend on the blog, and and it's good, and we appreciate it. Totally not a necessary thing.
Yeah, you do not have to give us money,
but it was kind of cool to see. And another piece of news is, so we have something. It's for sale, and I think we did an interview with Kate when she was talking about is researching really special items, and she talked about having this item and she was contacted by the family,
right,
who had something to do with the item, and she felt afflicted. Should she just give it away to them, or make them pay a price because she pulled it out of the waste stream,
found it, put it online, made it available? So
we had this happen. We were in this really junky thrift store, and I was going through the books, and I found a sketchbook.
Yeah, it was a sketchbook, but it also had paintings in it. I'm trying to see if I can see it on our bookshelf right now.
It was really cool, and it was a woman had been sketching and painting in this book since the
50s.
50s, so it was like every couple of years it'd be a new piece, and it was like portraits of people, and it was like kind of an outsider art kind of thing. It was really cool.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
Like when I saw it, I was just like, this is the most amazing sketchbook. And it's not the type of artwork where you're like, wow, these are masterpieces. They're like really funky, crazy, like paintings.
Yeah, I mean, just super
portraits.
Cool things that we love. And this isn't the kind of thrift store where if I didn't pull it off of this shelf, they take those books and they throw them out fairly
eventually,
randomly. So I definitely saved it from getting thrown away.
Right.
Anyway, we got contacted by two of his relatives this past week saying, this is my aunt, or this is my great aunt.
Great aunt, yeah.
This is her name, and these are the people who are in the paintings that you've taken pictures of.
They knew they were relatives.
And they didn't ask to get it for free. They just said, because we had kind of a high price on a couple $100.
$250 I have on it.
$250, and they were just asking, would we take an offer? And it's got make offer on it.
Yeah.
And the one person is a seller, she sells clothes.
Yeah.
And I was like, sure, just make us an offer.
And we never heard from them.
And we never heard back from them.
I think for me, I honestly do not feel conflicted with people like that. I almost get annoyed. And Jade thinks it's funny, but I'm just like, this is part of your family. You should be willing to pay a good price for it.
If it's so important to you, then why don't you just open up your checkbook and
right.
I think that a lot of times we've had this happen other times where it's almost like people feel like entitled to it.
They feel entitled to it, and they think you should just give it to them.
These people didn't feel that way. I mean, they didn't act like that. They were just like, wow, I can't believe
you found this.
They asked us where we got it from. It probably was in a box that a relative had thrown away.
And these people were local. I looked at her. She's like in a couple towns over, so they're not far away.
So it's interesting, it seems like I want it to go to them, and I would take almost any reasonable offer.
Right.
But I don't know. It's interesting.
It is a weird conundrum because for me, I'm kind of like, it is important for them to get it back, but at the same time, it wasn't important enough for them to have kept it.
Right.
or whoever, someone.
And I feel like, it's almost like a finder's fee. It's like we pulled this from, this would be in the trash right now.
It's almost like.
In the landfill.
It's almost like when people are like, my grandfather painted that painting you have, therefore it's mine. You're like, I didn't steal this from your house. Right. I got it from a thrift store,
Right.
Like I've had that happen before where people message me like that and you're like, what? You're crazy. But yeah, that is an interesting conundrum.
So in the blog, a couple links that people had sent to us. Mark in New Jersey, he sends us a lot of these. It seems like every couple weeks there's a new article online or in the paper about someone finds something at Goodwill and sells it for $1 bazillion. It's just like, I call it the Vegas jackpot Goodwill story, And Goodwill probably loves these stories because it gets everyone to
go to Goodwill.
Because you're trying to find that special thing. So this article, and we'll link to them on the blog, this guy found a really rare a wristwatch. Like only 300 were ever made. And he bought it for $5 and he sold it for, what was it, like $35,000, you know?
Oh my God.
I love the one quote in the story. The guy was like, I saw it and I couldn't believe it. And I grabbed it. And the lady wanted to take it from my hand to scan it, and I wouldn't let her take it out of my hand because I didn't want to let it go.
Yep,
you know?
yep. It's one of those things where you find... I've done that in thrift stores, not with something that costs $35,000, but I'll want something so bad, I won't put it down. Right. I'll just hold it in my arms, like, nope, not even putting it in my cart. Like, but, it's just, I'm holding this.
I mean, that's a good thing, like... You know, we've never found something worth that much. We go into Goodwill not as often as it used to,
right.
But when we do, we always walk away with things worth $30 to $50 to $100. I mean, those things are there. I know these prices are getting more expensive, but there's still stuff there if you're willing just to really look deep into a place like that.
Now, what's interesting though is that this guy must have known his watches really well because I mean, he for him to find that and know what it was is pretty amazing.
I mean, he knew, and I think that's why as scavengers, it's always good just to learn as much as you can about different items because like when we were in that thrift store the other day and you saw that a software, I would have totally looked over that.
Yeah.
Totally bored
like,
by
oh,
it.
Whatever.
And you would know that was worth $1,000.
Right.
You know? So, and Mark also sent another link to a California mom says she grosses at least $70K a month on Etsy, which
on
which
Etsy?
Is interesting. But then when you look into the article, you got to parse it a little bit.
Yeah,
she grosses $70K, so that's her gross profit.
Right.
Then she breaks it down. I think she makes like some kind of fabric thing. I don't know exactly what it was she was selling, but some kind of like thing that people
like use. A custom made thing.
She has 8 employees now. So she says she takes home personally $55,000 a year. So that's how much she makes for herself.
Yeah,
but
because she's got employees and they are a little
and
factory.
Cost of fabric and stuff like that.
So like when they inflate numbers like that for an article,
I mean, that's not inflated. They're just leading with
the gross number.
With the gross, which sounds amazing.
Right. Gross always sounds amazing.
But how much does it cost to have you do that?
To make that. Yeah.
I thought it was interesting because, I mean, again, it's mentioned on here. I'm kind of like not a big fan of Etsy, or we've never seen it to be a big profit place for us. Because I always think it's people it's making little tiny part-time is numbers. A lady's, I mean, that's a real business, you know.
Yeah,
if you're grossing
serious.
$70,000, I mean, if you're grossing almost $1 million a year, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You know? Hopefully she's having fun with it. I mean, if she's it's making handmade products, that's cool.
That is very cool.
So another bit of news for us this week is we kind of came home from Colombia and found out that our USPS
our mail carrier, which we are very sad about.
I never thought that would be something that would happen. I thought, so sad.
Well, she's not retiring or anything. She just changed her route.
She got a better route, basically.
Yeah,
route. Not route. Route.
Okay, if you're from the Northeast, it's route.
If you're from the South, it's a route.
Well, I ain't from the South. So I'm very, very sad about that because she totally understood our business. She knew we almost always have a pickup. Even if I forgot to do a pickup that night, she would, or if I didn't have a pickup, she would still look at the porch and see if we had one.
She felt basically like a partner in our business.
Yeah.
You know? She would sometimes knock on her door and ask, is
everything
this
okay?
thing, or if like a package didn't have enough postage on it.
She would make sure.
It doesn't happen very often.
She'd make sure I knew that and I could pay her right then and all that stuff.
So anyway, I met the new mail lady yesterday when it was snowing a foot, so she was in a really bad mood.
She was in a bad mood, right?
So I'm hoping
we're hoping the weather was putting her in a bad mood.
But it's almost like now we have to train a new mail carrier.
Right.
But our old carrier, again, is still in the office. she said she explained what we do, and so
okay, good. We just get nervous about stuff like that. We're like, is she gonna know? Like on Monday, I have basically 50 packages for her to pick up.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Yeah,
but bottom line for us though, we don't care,
right?
You know? Like
this is their job.
A customer.
Right.
We are paying good money to have this stuff shipped.
Right.
And we're following the rules.
Right.
And she's supposed to come pick it up.
Right.
And so we'll be professional and kind about it, but we don't expect any kind of problem. And there shouldn't be one.
Right.
Because that's their job.
Right.
And they should be. And every post office person has always been happy that we're doing this because we're keeping them in business.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
Period.
So it shouldn't be a problem.
Right.
But it's always kind of sad when you get used to someone and you know them. Like when we switched from when we moved to a new postal district from the old one. I mean, we literally drove there every day for a year because we were like, we don't want to go to another post office
because we love them so much.
Oh my god! So.
So change is tough. The other thing is news. Remember this is about the 20th of a month, and the 20th of the month is eBay does an evaluation of all of our stores.
Right.
So if you go into a seller,
the dashboard,
it's performance.
Yeah.
You can see how eBay has judged you. It's almost like it's a report card from school. So we are actually still top edge rated, but. Here's a deal for us. If you sell under 400 packages in 3-month period, they judge you by a 12-month cycle. If you sell over 400 items in a 3-month period, they just judge you for those 3 months. So during the holidays, we were selling enough and only being judged in those 3 months, and our stats were great.
Yeah.
We just now are being judged by the past 12 months because we've been selling it less. And actually, it's harder to carry that much defects over a 12-month period.
Right.
So we won't get top-rated seller status next month unless we improve some stuff, And mainly because of our handling time. That's a thing that's getting us because we were away. So, like we say, it's nice to get top-rated seller status because it gets 20% discount and all that.
Yeah, that's always nice. But
you know what?
You just, oh, man. Yeah.
We sell no matter what. One doesn't, guarantee the other. And then the last thing was this guy, I think he's kind of new to the blog. He sent us this link without put on the blog. He's just made some kind of homemade tools.
Yeah.
One tool is you can enter in a YouTube video and it spits out the right code so you can paste it onto your listing and eBay will show it.
So he's allowing you to embed your videos on your listing with the proper code because you do need a specific code to do it or it just doesn't show up on your listing.
And then the other thing is, and they look like free tools, one is to choose the right box size.
Yeah, this is really cool actually. You enter in the dimensions of your item and the weight, and it tells you what USPS boxes you can use, which for new people, that is super helpful because you're like, can this fit in a medium flat rate? Can this fit in a large flat rate? Does it fit in a regional A? That's helpful.
And then it also tells you when you put the zip code in, it tells you how much it's going to cost.
Right.
So it's a great tool, especially for all the new people that come on and they get confused by all the different choices.
Right. I thought it was very cool, actually. I think a lot of people will find that very helpful.
And do you think that might be helpful for for weird size
Yeah,
items?
I think so. There are certain things where I'm like, the only issue is it's helpful to know if something can go in a regional box, but eBay doesn't give that as a choice for buyers. But it's helpful for you if you want to save a little bit and send something like regional box A. So that is helpful.
So all these links we've been talking about, we will put on the blog post at scavengerlife.com. So you can go there and we will list those. Things we learned in the comments this week. Again, it was a really good week in the comments, and I've really been enjoying. I feel like there's this new kind of wave of people that have found our blog, or at least started to comment. So it's all these new voices coming in. And at the same time, we're getting some old topics brought up again.
Right.
You know, all the OGs on the blog. We've
already talked through all this.
But now it's these people are coming up, bringing up these old topics in a new way. And one of the thing is like, how do you fool Cassini? And Cassini is eBay's search engine. People are coming up, well, you know, I was reading online and someone said if you delete your items and re-list them, you'll get higher in the search rankings. If you put things on auction first and then put it on buy it now, you'll fool the search engine.
And when they say that, they mean then I'll get higher in the search ranking and I'll make more sales. People will see my stuff more and make more sales.
But, you know, this is kind of an old topic for a lot of us because we've talked about it. But, you know, when people say that, it's always like somebody said. And if someone says something on the internet, it's like, I want to see proof, you know? And that's the thing. Proof? None of these like little things that people say are backed up by any real evidence. Because if there was evidence, then everyone would be doing it, and then eBay would change their search engine because everyone's trying to fool it. I mean, that's the thing about all these search engines is that it's never do one thing and this thing happens.
Yeah, it's not. Search engine algorithms are a complex science, and if it were that easy to game, I mean, it would be a crappy search engine.
Right.
It would be awful. They wouldn't want to use it. If someone could just end and relist and then they're at the top of all searches.
I think, too, it's a couple things here. I mean, number one, if you're selling really, really popular items, so you're selling something that's made in a Chinese factory, and there are, 10,000 other people selling the exact same brand new item from the Chinese factory, you guys are all fighting for those top spots.
Right.
And I get that. So that's really important.
Yeah.
And so that's when people fool with free shipping and lowering their price, and maybe they're trying to game the system that way. What we sell, because it's more specialized and unique stuff, we're just focused on getting good photos and selling items of quality with good description, because there aren't a lot of them up there.
Yeah.
And people like us will buy them, and you're scrolling through and you're looking for the good picture.
Right.
You know?
Someone who's a quality seller who's not going to, be a bad communicator or sell you something that's not as described.
And, we're also selling things where people aren't searching for these things all the time,
Yeah.
So the items that are, it's more rare, you aren't really fighting for the top spot.
Right.
Because the collectors will always be...
They'll find you.
Yeah, they'll always find us. So instead of wasting valuable time on managing our old listings, going through, relisting, we just spend our time adding brand new ones.
Right.
It's new.
Like we say, list it and forget it.
Yeah.
So it's fine if you want to go through and, maybe you price things a little bit too high in the beginning, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't even look at that stuff anymore.
Right.
So
I mean, but I get it. I mean, the heart of all these kind of like fake strategies to boost your sales is just basically a sense of helplessness.
Right, exactly.
If you have a store and you're just like, what can I do to sell more?
Right.
And I don't know, we just feel like instead of trying to boost its numbers that way, just keep finding cool stuff and just list.
Just keep going. I mean,
if you have under 300 items or even under 500 items, you're not going to sell a lot.
Right.
Period. I mean, case closed. You
Yeah.
know? So focus on listing more. So our coming week.
Yes.
So this week we are back into action.
Yes.
Into eBay action, and we're home for 10 weeks before we have to go away again.
Right.
We're actually traveling a lot It's
this year. Yeah.
But so we have about 2.5 months where we're going to be home.
Yay.
And one of the big things we're going to be doing is we have a lot of art we have to photograph and sell.
So that is going to be a real push.
You know, we talked about this. We had taken on kind of this consignment for our friend.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And we've kind of been going through it in chunks.
Right.
But it's time to do another big chunk. And, you know, I kind of go back and forth. Like, we did it because it was a special arrangement with him. He's a good guy. It's cool stuff, so it's interesting.
Yeah.
But still, I don't think we would ever do consignment like this again.
And what's interesting is right before we took on this project, we had made a podcast that was like, we never do consignment. But this was an interesting project, and we were like, okay, let's give it a try. But I think it kind of seals the deal about consignment for us. We're like, but that's what we always do. We'll say no to something, and then we'll be like, let's try an experiment.
Yeah, I mean, we always break our own rules.
Yeah.
It was just because we were getting into selling art for ourselves, and we thought this could be a good experiment where we would learn a lot about art.
Right.
So when we bought stuff ourselves, we would have a deep knowledge stuff. And that definitely is true.
Yeah.
It will be true because we have a lot of this art to sell. Because everything we sell for him will be going through and learning about new styles.
Researching,
names, prices.
Right, all that stuff.
The problem with consignment is that no matter how much they share profit with you, you're the one doing the work.
You do all the work.
You know, and that's always a tough one. I mean, basically, you're doing work for them. You know,
exactly. Which we, as we always say, don't like to do.
Yeah. So that's what we're doing. Okay, so let's go to the questions that were either called in or emailed to us this week.
So we love getting voicemails, and you can call us at 540-407-8486. And that number is also at the top of the blog as well. So let's take our first call.
Hey, Scavenge Life, it's me, Trevor, or Zicamo, as I'm known on blog, Zicameau. And I update on your blog once a month, and I'm an 18-year-old college student, and I sell things on eBay to make money for college expenses, gas, or food. My question for you guys would be, what is the most efficient way to store items within the smallest amount of space? I store, ship, lift, and live within a 110 square foot room that I live with my parents. And I was wondering what you guys might think would be the best way to store your items within such a small amount of space. Thanks for listening. Thanks for the podcast, and I hope to hear from you soon. Thanks, guys.
Okay, so he says he lives in a 110 square foot room at his parents' house.
I love this. I love hearing from young people.
Me too.
Like this. Like,
that's awesome.
When I was his age, I knew people who were selling pot to make its money. You know? So it's much better that he's selling scavenge items. A much better way to do it. Or I was like flipping hamburgers basically. I was getting paid $5.25 an hour. That's how much I was paid.
Yeah. Yep.
Can you imagine? I was working. So if I work 40 hours a week, I would barely clear $200.
Oh my god,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
and that's
crazy.
Before they take out taxes.
Right. It's insane.
So nuts. So anyway, so in a small space, here's the deal. If there's really no other space at your parents' house, a basement, a garage,
right,
an extra room that had an extra closet in it, I mean, you can't rent a space.
Yeah, rent a storage space.
I mean, even in a city, you could probably spend $100 for a rental space. I mean,
and hopefully you'll, number one, it's a business expense. Right. Number two, hopefully you're making enough to cover that.
Right. So it really just depends on, your level of how much is being sold.
Right.
Can you fill up a space? I mean,
yeah.
But that seems to be the obvious thing.
Yeah. And also, like, if you didn't say what you were selling, but if you're selling smaller items, you can, have bins in your room that you can categorize and store things that way as well.
Or then, there's it's Mr. Customer Service who we interviewed, who just sells totally different than we do and does very, very well.
Well, he sells on auction, so he has, every week he has a bookshelf full of stuff.
Right. His storage is just a bookshelf, and that's it.
Because he moves stuff out every week. So that could be a way for a smaller space, so you actually aren't storing anything.
Right. So he will often get less money for an item than we would get, but he's getting it right away, and he's not having to store it.
Right,
so,
exactly.
Different strategy.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I listen to your podcast religiously. I hope you're having fun in Colombia. I just have a comment to make regarding a few episodes ago where you're talking to Mikey and Wendy again, and they're talking about traveling over the summer and visiting a couple of mountain towns. And they wanted to come to Asheville, North Carolina. And that's where I live. So I'm kind of not freaking out, but Asheville's so awesome. It's way more awesome than the other places that they mentioned. There is no way they don't pick Asheville as their permanent place to go every summer. So my boyfriend and I are now kind of rethinking our summer strategy as far as sourcing goes. But if I ever run into them, that would be so awesome, and I would definitely recognize them. So I hope that's not weird for them. Just fair warning in advance. But anyway, hope you guys have fun and safe travels. Bye.
So that is a really funny call. So she's like
That's cool.
in Asheville, North Carolina, and heard that Mikey and Wendy would be going there in the summer.
And Mikey and Wendy are the kind of people that do attract kind of fans. We're definitely fans of them.
Oh yeah,
because they definitely have been leaders in like a different way in kind of a different lifestyle that we think is cool. But what you can do is they have a blog that we've linked to It's Before, and you could just contact them through their blog and, invite them out to lunch or something.
Yeah. Yeah, so definitely send them a message and just, you guys should meet up.
Yeah, cool.
Hi, this is Cynthia calling from Dallas, Texas. I'm a retired counselor and college administrator trying to begin a tiny, tiny eBay business. And your podcasts are my best link to information, encouragement, and inspiration. Really, you are fabulous. I owe you a tremendous thanks. My question is about pricing. Does it really matter if an item is priced at $9.99 as opposed to $10? A nice round number. Or is it best to play the little game with the 1 penny difference in price? I'd like your opinion on that, and thank you enormously for your generosity. You're wonderful to help other people, and I appreciate you. Thank you from Dallas, Texas. Bye-bye now.
Okay, this is a good question. And the funny thing is, when I started pricing things, just instinctively, I was just pricing things like $9.99, $24.99. I don't know why. Well, just psychologically.
It's just what we've all been brought up with. Like, it's watching the TV ads, it's just like, call now, $9.99 plus a free, microwave.
I want a free microwave.
Really, we are not experts. That's just how we price it, just because
it just made sense to me.
However, there are definitely different ways. Like if you go to, Five Guys Burgers, some places nowadays are really into single
number.
Solid, it's numbers.
$5.
$5 burrito,
Right.
$5 hamburger, because I guess they feel like that, $1 fries, because that just seems like it's simpler.
You can just add the numbers up. You're like, my meal is $6,
But then we actually have friends that sell on eBay, and I don't really understand why they do it. I need to ask them. They price things like $6.27, $5.83.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's another kind of psychological reasoning why they do it all funny like that,
I think you should price things whatever feels right to you. For me, just instinctively, I was like $9.99, $15.99. Like that just psychologically, I was like $9.99 is technically less than $10,
right,
you know, and your brain is like, hey, it's not even $10.
And someone on the blog, actually, because we've talked about this, it's before they sent a link a link to the blog where there was like a whole study done.
Yeah.
Why that kind of fools the brain and thinking a penny is a better deal.
Yeah, but, you know, again.
Welcome to retail.
Whatever works for you.
Yeah.
You should do that.
Hi, this is Gigi from North Carolina calling. We're practically neighbors. In your last podcast, while you were out of the country, you mentioned changing your ship times to 10 days. I, too, travel a fair amount, so I have just been putting my store on vacation mode. I was wondering if you could comment on which method is best, or do you utilize both? That is, the 10-day shipping and vacation mode. And I guess part B to that question would be, is there a way to bulk change your shipping times back and forth like that? Maybe using Selling Manager? I looked around, I wasn't able to figure it out. So anyways, that'd be great to hear a little bit more about what method you utilize. My second question is related to international shipping. Just have ventured from domestic into international. I've read a lot about it online. I'm particularly interested in the global shipping program. There seem to be some mixed reviews out there. Some people love it, some people hate it, and I was wondering if you could highlight some of maybe the pros and the cons of the global shipping program, and maybe even compare and contrast that program with just using UPS or US Postal or FedEx or something like that. All right. Thank you so much, and thanks for being so generous with your knowledge and information. Bye.
Okay, so in regards to vacation mode versus changing your handling time or both, we found over the years when we traveled, putting just vacation mode on would limit our sales. We found that it really felt like sales were slow.
Yeah, but I mean, I think here's what I think the real problem was is that, so if you put on just the vacation mode and you email people as they buy and say, we're on vacation, but our handling time still says next day. Right. So if we're gone for 3 weeks and then we come back, for some reason not everyone reads their messages, it's forget, and we would sometimes get a negative feedback that we couldn't fight because eBay would say, it didn't matter if your vacation it was on. You said handling time was the next day. Yeah. So they are allowed to be angry about it and give you bad feedback. And eBay told us, just change your handling time. Right. So that's what we do now. We don't put vacation status on because it doesn't matter where we are. Yeah. We tell them we're not shipping for 10 days or 30 days. Right. Like, that's what the official handling time is. And if they get angry and leave us bad feedback, we can have that it's removed because it was very clear and transparent.
Yeah, the shipping time was clear.
And you can just change that.
Yes,
bulk.
So you can bulk edit in your Seller Manager Pro. And I can't really explain it just on a podcast, but it is doable to change. Yeah. You can do, depending on how many items you have in your store, you can do 500 at a time, and you just change the handling time.
Can people bulk edit if they don't have a store?
God, I don't know. Maybe not. Yeah. We've had a store for so long that I just don't know. Right. So that's a great question. If you don't have a store, I don't think you can put your listings on vacation anyway. Okay. You have to have a store to be able to do that.
Gotcha. Huh. So
that is
one of the benefits.
Yeah, that is a benefit.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's for us, changing our handling time was a big aha moment because we're also accustomed to people want things next day or right away, and we were like, wait a second, people can just get it when we get back. It's not a big deal.
Most people are fine with it.
Yeah, so we sold 50 things in 10 days while we were gone.
Not one person wanted to change.
Again, not everyone reads those messages as we send, but we got quite a few enjoy your trip.
Right.
Thanks for telling me.
There were some people who were like, how come you didn't ship yet? And I'm like, as said on our handling time and the message I sent you last week, and then they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. But I mean, putting the vacation mode on would confuse us because it'd be like, why doesn't it change the handling time?
We were super confused about that.
Right.
Isn't that the whole point of vacation mode? You're like,
Right.
I'm gone.
Right. And when we would try and like fight these bad feedbacks that we would get sometimes, eBay would say, but your handling time said this, and we would say we were on its vacation. They were like, we have no
proof of that.
So we would actually have to be taking snapshots while we were on vacation because eBay doesn't have like a memory of when your vacation banner is
It's just, you know what? It's like old technology from the beginning of eBay that they haven't changed. So you're like, true vacation mode, if they were to implement it, would change the handling time.
Right.
When are you coming back? Okay,
Right.
2 weeks from now, great. Handling time change.
Those things would be tied. Right now, it's all vacation mode is puts a little tiny banner
at the
up top. Like a
that
little
barely
tiny
anyone
strip.
can see.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, and then the other question you asked was global shipping program. I mean, we've done several episodes about global shipping. We are the global shipping celebrants.
Yeah, we love it.
We're real happy about it. If you go online, there's a lot of people super negative about it. Normally, those are people that are buyers from overseas, and they get angry about it because they pay more. But very often, what they're getting angry at is that they're having to pay their custom charges up front.
Right.
And that has nothing to do with any of us. That's their own country that charge VAT taxes and custom fees.
If you send it regular, like I sent a piece of artwork to England, it's sitting in customs right now waiting for the person to pay for the VAT tax.
Right. And some people, especially like Canadians, say, well, yes, there is a customs fee, but we don't always have to pay it. So, just send it to me normal and let me deal with that. And I get that. We are right now trying to work with the community, figuring out how do you do global shipping, but exempt
Canada.
Certain countries like Canada.
We haven't been successful.
Now it doesn't seem like that's possible. But
although people think it's possible, but I'm not sure if it actually is possible.
But we post our numbers every week, and you can go back for the past 2 years and look to see how much we sell on global shipping, and we sell plenty.
Yeah, we sell
shipping.
A lot. So we love it.
Yeah, and again, it might just be because we're selling kind of weird, cool items that people are like, well, I want that. It's rare. I'll take it,
Yeah.
But if you're selling like really popular items, maybe you can't do global shipping because other people are willing to ship first class and take all those risks.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So that's it for this week. We're glad to be back and here with you.
Give us a comment. Give us a call. Our phone number is 540-407-8486, and we love the calls.
And last week we didn't do a what's sold video, but Ryan will probably have a big, gigantic, long, epic what's sold video. It's this week.
Yeah, I'll post it probably on Wednesday. I have a ton of stuff to show you guys that's sold. So be prepared for that.
All right, this podcast is ending in 3, 2, 1. Bye.